Hi guys, I'm Kim Fulcher. I'm a life coach, and this is Group TV, where I'm going to give you just a little bit of advice for your life. Today we're going to talk about who you think you are. We're going to talk about identity. And that sounds like a pretty big concept, but really all identity is your own self-concept. It's how you see yourself in the world. And it's really important for two reasons. First, it really dictates what you will or won't go for, how you show up, how much pleasure you take in things or don't. And more important than that, you cannot behave outside of who you believe yourself to be. You cannot behave outside of your identity. So if you're going for a dream or you're looking to make proactive changes in your life, you must line your identity up with the changes you're looking to make, or you will self-sabotage. You cannot behave outside of your identity. So today, what we're going to do is walk through in 3 simple steps, really breaking down buckets or pieces of your identity so you can kind of take a look at how you're looking at yourself and make some decisions about whether or not you might want to make some adjustments. Ready? Let's rock and roll. Okay, step number 1. I want you to notice your roles. Okay, notice your roles. You probably don't realize it, but when you describe yourself right now, you already use roles. I'm a mom, I'm an executive, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a scientist. You get the picture, right? Now, roles are incredibly important in our lives because they dictate how we behave. You see, all roles come with their own rules for what has to happen, what you will or won't do, what you should or shouldn't do in order to do a good job in that role. Think about mom, for example. I mean, what a loaded role, right? We have so many rules for what it will take to be a good mom that we kind of set ourselves up for failure right when we begin, right? So let's take a look at your roles. And what I know to be true from working with clients is that we all have probably between 5 and 10 primary roles we play on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, right? These are ways we show up in our lives. They're patterns. So I'm going to challenge you right now to think about just one of the roles you play and really do this work with me as we're moving through this workshop. Okay, so your roles have rules, and we're thinking about one of your roles right now. I'm going to use mom just because that's such a universal role. Now, the way I see women trip themselves up when it comes to roles are in one of 3 areas. Number 1, you're making your rules too hard, and mom is a perfect example for this. I'll share a story to illustrate this simply. So I was working with a client named Susan, and Susan hired me because she was really feeling dissatisfied in her life. She was very busy. She was an executive working outside her home, and she had 3 little kids under 10 years old in her home. So she was juggling work in the home, outside of the home, and always feeling like she was failing. But the thing that was really causing her the most angst was her fear that she was failing her children because she didn't feel like she was measuring up as a mom. Well, when we really got into the rules that Susan was using to decide whether or not she was a good mom, what we found was that she had this list that was impossible to meet. A list that included things like her house should always be spotless if she's a good mom. Hello, 3 kids under 10. Or she should be home cooking every meal. Hello, working outside the home before you go pick your kids up. Right? Susan had set herself up to fail because she hadn't really thought about her rules. She just kind of unconsciously cultivated the ones that she had seen her mom demonstrate. And this happens with rules in general. Most of the time, we're not thinking on purpose about our rules themselves. We're just kind of unconsciously assuming whatever rules our family system or our peer system or even our social system has dictated to us. So let's make this meaningful for you. Think about the role you're playing. Are you setting yourself up to fail? Are you making your rules so hard that you cannot possibly succeed even when you're knocking yourself out? And if you're doing that, no beating yourself up, right? We want to use our knowledge for good. If you're doing that, just stop it. Just decide you're going to ease up. Move through your own list of rules and make sure that you're setting rules you can actually meet. Okay, so that's the first piece of roles and rules that really can trip women up. And the next 2 are really about what happens when your role shifts or disappears. So let's stay with mom. So I had another client named Peggy, and Peggy hired me because her baby had just gone off to college, and Peggy had been a stay-at-home mom and had dedicated all of her time and energy into raising her kids. And she had a lot of rules around homework and around meal prep and around running her daughter around that made her feel like a good mom. So when her daughter left to school, she couldn't understand why she was melting down. But the reason she was melting down is because the rules that she had placed for herself were no longer achievable. Back to setting yourself up to fail, right? So what we needed to do was to give her some new rules for what it would be or what it would take for her to be a great mom to her now college-age child, right? Or, and this is the more difficult one, you could be dealing with a role that has disappeared entirely. And let's stay in keeping with mom and with client examples. So my client Lori was an executive working outside the home, and she was incredibly successful. She had garnered a great deal of praise and accolades for her accomplishments. Well, she got pregnant and she had a baby and made the decision to be a stay-at-home mom. And she was miserable. She hired me because she thought there was something wrong with her because she was so unhappy staying home with her child when she knew that there were a lot of women out there that would probably want to do what she was doing but didn't have the luxury to. And what we really got down to, once we took a look at the roles and rules that she was referring to in her life, was that all of the significance that she used to get from her career was not going to be replicated or fed by the role she was playing as mom. She was going to get other things from that role, but the atta girls, we all know, don't come a whole lot for mom, right? So what we had to do was help her put a replacement role in place that would allow her to still find some level of significance in her life. And she decided to start a side business because that gave her her thing. And the same may be the case for you. Here's the thing, life does not tolerate a vacuum. So when something disappears, something else must take its place. If you are in shaky territory because one of your roles has disappeared, what you want to do is take the bull by the horns and you want to decide on purpose what kind of role you want to replace the missing guy with. Okay, step number 2. So now what I want you to do is pay attention to your personality. Personality is a huge bucket in identity, and I break it down in 4 ways. But before we talk about the 4 ways, the first thing I want to do is caution you about how I see women holding themselves back in this area. So you have permission to change and grow and evolve in your life. But I bet that a lot of the pieces of your personality right now were formed when you were very young. And you probably haven't taken a very close look at them in a long time. And so what can happen is we can get very set in our ways. We can get very rigid. We can just define ourselves as a person who likes something or doesn't like something, and we really don't give things a second or a third or a fourth look. So what I want to encourage you here, especially since we're doing this work together, is to give yourself permission to take a second look at how you're looking at yourself. Give yourself permission to change. Okay, so there are 4 of them. Number 1, your likes and dislikes. And here that seems pretty evident, right? You either like a thing or you don't. But what I've seen happen time and time again with women is that we have more adaptive interests than we do authentic interests. And what do I mean by that? An adaptive interest is just like it sounds. It's an interest you've adapted to because the people around you are also interested in it. And there's nothing wrong whatsoever with adapted interest. It gives you shared interests with people you love. We just want to make sure that you also have time for authentic interests in your life. And the same goes for your dislikes. So what I want you to do a litmus test on here is, what are your current likes and dislikes? How long has it been since you revisited that list, and are they authentic or adaptive? Okay. Second bucket are your interests or your apathies, kind of similar to likes and dislikes. Although your interests, these are things that you're curious about. They're things you really like learning about or talking about. And your interests are completely related to your life purpose. So it's really important that you explore them. And your apathies are just the reverse of that. If you're really neutral on something, if you just have no interest in it at all, well, there's a reason you don't. It means there's nothing for you there. And so unless you're sharing something with someone you love, you really don't need to be wasting a lot of time there. Okay, so likes and dislikes, interests and apathies. Now we have strengths and weaknesses. So your strengths are the things you are naturally great at. They're probably the things you get complimented on, but you kind of discount because they're so easy for you, right? Your strengths also have purpose. You were born with the gifts you were born with for a reason. So it's really important for you to name and own and strengthen your strengths, strengthen those gifts. Now, on the other side of that, your weaknesses also have gifts for you. And they're not so fun to look at because we've been taught we should hold shame around what our weaknesses are. But there's no shame in your weakness, and you gotta know where you could trip yourself up, or you're probably gonna fall more than you need to, right? So it's important for you to really list what you're not good at so that you can surround yourself with support in those areas. Here's the other thing that can happen with weaknesses. A weakness, and this is usually something that you get a lot of criticism for, you probably have gotten criticism for it your whole life. A weakness can really be what I call a strength gone wild, which just means that you're not managing the power of what could be a gift for you, and so it's being misused. Kind of like, do you remember the movie The Sorcerer's Apprentice? And Mickey has this power at his disposal, but the wizard hasn't taught him how to use it yet, and so he just makes a mess when he tries to use it. Well, the same is a weakness that you're looking at, which is really a strength gone wild. And what you look at here, I'll give you a couple of examples. Maybe your impulsiveness will make you a great risk taker once you learn how to manage that power, and will make you a great entrepreneur, right? Maybe that stubbornness that always plagued you, when it's managed, could also make you a great entrepreneur, a great business owner, or really give you stick-to-itiveness that will allow you to succeed in life. So you see what I mean here. So make sure that you really get your arms around those strengths and weaknesses that could really trip you up, and also not really weaknesses, you just think they are, but strengths gone wild. And then final category here are self-descriptors, and this is, are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? Are you an optimist? Are you a pessimist? You just want to give a second look to those descriptors, because what you're going to find is that a lot of times other people gave you your descriptors. You just kind of absorbed what other people were telling you, and you didn't do a lot of thinking on your own about what is really true for you, right? What I always say is, I don't know what's right for you. Only you know what's right for you. I just know how to guide you through this process so that you can access your knowing, and this is part of doing that. Home stretch. Step number 3, I want you to reframe your negative labels. There are 2 ways negative labels show up in your life. Either you talk about what you're not. I'm not a numbers person. I'm not athletic. And in defining yourself that way, you make sure you aren't. And so you really hold yourself back from what you're actually capable of. The other way that a negative label can show up is if you're wearing a label that probably other people gave you in your life. Maybe someone in the schoolyard called you stupid once, and now today you still repeat that in your head every time you make a mistake. I'm so stupid. Right? You cannot reach your full level of empowerment if you are taking part in your own oppression, and taking part in labeling yourself negatively is oppression. So you need to stop that. But no vacuum, remember? So what we want to do is not just notice what you're doing, we want to reframe that with something that's more empowering. If you used to call yourself stupid, I want you to decide you're going to call yourself something else, smart would be good, that is incompatible with stupid, and I want you to start conditioning smart. No more negative labels, my sister. Okay. That is it for the week. We did a lot of work this week. We did good work. If you are not already part of my coaching community, please come join. It is all free. KimFulcher.com. Enter your email. All the details are there. You'll get a free Jumpstart workbook, and all the details will be emailed to you about how the program works. In a nutshell, I show up every week with free coaching. We talk here, and then you can come over to either Instagram or to Facebook and like my page there, or follow. I post a daily empowerment quote. I usually post something a little funny in the afternoon as well, because I like to laugh, and then we talk. And there are thousands and thousands of us now from like 8 countries who are together talking every day. So this community is a community of women, for women, and we are for each other's empowerment. I believe in you enough for both of us, and that's why I show up with this free coaching program, because I am removing all excuses. All excuses, girl. I want you to know, like, and trust yourself, and I am here to help you do it. So if you haven't already joined, kimfulcher.com, enter your email and you will be in. Facebook, Instagram. Comment in the comment section below and tell me today, this video was a little bit longer, but I gave you a little bit more meat in the coaching. And so I want to know, do you prefer the shorter version of the videos that we've typically been doing, or do you like this little bit longer session? And then the other thing I'd like to know is, did you like my use of client stories? Does it help you relate to your own life more when I'm talking about a person instead of just a concept, right? Because I'm learning to make sure that I can be a teacher that you can learn from, and so I need your feedback. So tell me what you're thinking of those two things, length of video and using client success stories. If you have not already subscribed to YouTube, please do so, and you'll always be alerted as soon as we put the newest video up on Groove TV. And until I see you again, my sister, know that life is happening for you, and you so totally got this.